Hello, my name is Greg Doughty. I work with Pure Fishing. I've been blessed to have been with this company for 34 years and doing promotions. It's a real pleasure to be here, even though it was an accident. The gentleman that was supposed to be here was supposed to talk to you about color lures. Does color lures actually matter? I got asked to fill in, and it's a real pleasure to be able to give you some of the knowledge that I've attained over these years. When I started fishing 50 years ago, there was nothing out there to teach you to fish. It was all trial and error. You tried something, if it worked, you kept doing it. If it didn't work, you tried something else. Today, if you want to learn how to fish, we've got TV channels that 24 hours a day, fishing shows. You got all kinds of information that's written in magazines dedicated just to bass fishing. You can get on any computer. Go to Google up anything that you want to learn, from how to flip, how to do finesse fishing, what color bait to use and what color water. You can even get out on the water and be stumped and not catch anything. Take out a cell phone, hit a few things, come up to Google. The next thing you know, it can tell you exactly what to do, how to fish. Now, when I learned, the bad thing was there wasn't enough information. Now, the bad thing is there's too much information. So how do you filter through the things that's out there so that you can find out how to catch a fish? Well, that's what we're going to try to talk about here today. Let's keep things simple. The easier it is for you to remember, the easier it is for you to apply it. So that's the basis of what we want to talk about today. Yeah, we're going to talk about color, but there's all kinds of things that color gets in. Like, do you catch more fish out of a red boat than a blue boat? Maybe a camouflage, but that doesn't make any difference. But do you catch more fish on a clear line or a green line than something that's fluorescent? Yeah, that could have a factor. Do you catch on a bright lure or a dark lure? Yeah, that could have a factor. But the main thing you're trying to look at is what color is the water. If it's gin clear, all the fish can see everything that's in that gin clear water there. But if it's extremely muddy, they can't see it as well, so they're relying on what they hear. Now, every one of those fish has got a vertical line that runs down it. It's like an ear, and it feels vibration. It feels the baits that are in the water. Every time it opens its mouth, it sucks water in, because that's the way it gets oxygen to run across its gills. Every time it sucks water in, it tastes the water molecules, so it can tell if there's something edible that's around it that's been in that water. So there's a whole lot more involved in this than just specific color. Okay. What do fish eat when they're in a lake? They're going to eat shad or smelt. It looks white. It looks silver. They eat a bluegill or a perch. They look chartreuses and greens. Or they're eating a crawdad, and the crawdad on the bottom is browns and greens and blacks. So if you're looking at crankbaits, whitish looking, looks like a shad. Chartreuse looking, looks like a bluegill. Chromish color, puts off reflection, looks like a shad or a smelt. The darker color represents those crawdads, those things that are on the bottom. This is a real good bait for everybody to put in their tackle box. A rattle bait. We just had the Bassmaster Classic. After the Classic was over, 3 days of fishing with the top fishermen in the world. And out of 3 days of fishing, 47% of the fish that they caught in that tournament were caught on a rattle bait. Now the good thing is, everything I'm going to show you here today, Bass Pro's got, so you can find it here in the store. But a rattle bait is a tremendous bait for you to put into your tackle box. What's that represent? What's the color represent?
Shad.
Shad. What's this one represent? The bluegill. What's this one represent? Shad. And what's this one represent? Crawfish. Okay. It's the same way when you look at spinnerbaits. Spinnerbaits are tremendous bait. Tremendous, catches a lot of fish. Because of water conditions, it didn't play as big a factor in the Bassmaster Classic as what was expected. Only 2% of the fish that were caught in that tournament were caught on a spinnerbait. When you look at dark colors, yes, it looks like a crawdad. But when you get a very dark, overcast day, all the clouds are covering, it gives the water a dark look. Even though it might be gem clear, still a dark bait will silhouette. So if you look at this type of spinnerbait, you can see the coloration. What would it represent? What? Shad. Exactly. What if it's in a chartreuse color? What's it represent? Bluegill. Okay. What if it's solid black? What's it represent? Crawdad. But what does it do in its color? Silhouettes. It silhouettes. Now, when you start looking at crankbaits, and even though the gentleman that won the Classic was throwing a crankbait, crankbaits come in all different shapes and sizes. If the bill is very short, the bait's going to go shallow. If the bill comes straight out the front and it's long, it's going to dig deep. If you look at that bait, you can't hardly see the bill in the front. It's very shallow. Because that bait has a certain color, what would that represent?
Bluegill.
Bluegill. This bait's got a very long lip. What would that represent in its color? Shad. So you think in these same terms, if it's clear water, I'm going to be looking at lighter colors. If it's real dark, I want dark colors to silhouette. Now, that in-between area of whether it's a little murky or not kind of lets you know about what type of baits. Now, an easy way to find out, if when you're fishing, you will crank your bait all the way to the tip end of the rod. And stick your rod right over the side of the boat and watch to see when that bait disappears. If you've got over a foot of visibility, it's very clear. Once it gets down to 2 foot below, now it's starting to get murky. And when it gets down past your rod that you can't see it, consider it in the muddy condition. Now, what's that all do? All you know is that the color of the water may mean that you use darker colored lures. Okay? If you've got a shad, and that shad's swimming around, just because the water gets muddy, does it change its colors to a red or a blue? No. It still stays a shad color. If it's been muddy for a long time, it may get a little lighter in color, but it stays the same color. If it's a bluegill and it's muddy water, does it change its color? No. So fish are going to feed on the same food that they always eat, and they're not worrying about all that different color. Okay, if it's a crawdad and it's on the bottom, or if it's an eel that's swimming along, it's more like a worm, are they going to change their color? No, they're not. So you look at those things that's on the bottom, and they're going to be in a darkish color. This bait, one by Bass Pro, it's a creature bait. It's very similar. A lot of people call them beavers, creatures, whatever. But you can see it's a very dark colored bait. That's the type that they use to fish low and on the bottom. Now once again, it's dark. So against the bottom, it's going to silhouette and make it a whole lot easier for a fish to find. No matter what bait that you choose to put on your rod, it doesn't matter who makes it. It doesn't matter how much you paid for it. It can be the greatest bait in the world, but you're not going to catch a fish on it if there's not fish there. So it's just like business. Whenever you get ready to go into business, what's the first thing you look at? Location. Location, location, location. If you get that place that's right there on the main highway on the corner, you get more traffic. You get more people to come in. If you've got your business located 2 miles down the road on a dirt gravel road, and people have to drive specifically to find you, then you don't have as much business. So location is the main thing you gotta look for. Fish are just like we are. It's been winter. It's been nasty. And every one of us have wanted to stay inside the house, stay bundled up where it's been warm. The weather's starting to change. You feel an extra kick in your step. You want to get out and just start roaming around. A month or so down the road, it's going to get hot. We want to get back inside in that air conditioner. Everything's more stable. Fall rolls around. Hey, football season again. It's time to watch the Buckeyes play. You get out, you get more active. And then all of a sudden, here comes winter again. So winter and summer are alike because we're going to look for the stable conditions. Spring and fall are alike because we feel more active when we want to get out and roam around. Well, fish are the same way. It's been winter. They've been sitting in deep water. They've been out on the main part of the lake. Spring's starting to come. They're going to have an urge for two things. One, to eat. Number two, the sex. They're going to find a way to get to the back end of that creek to set up on a mud flat to spawn. So spring is when this occurs. Spring, they move to the back ends of coves and creeks. Summer's going to roll around. It's going to get hot water again. They're not going to stay in that shallow stuff. They're looking for comfort, so they're going to move back out to the main lake. So you look at main lake points and channel bends where it's deeper water. Fall rolls around. Well, they don't know it's football season, but they know that they want to eat, so they're going to follow shad, and they're going to follow them back into that creek, back to the shallow end. And after they've fed up and the water starts getting cold, they're going to move back out to that deep water on the main lake. So location, location, location. If you play the percentages, and it's now fish just starting to come out of deep water, and you first go fishing, start looking on those channel bends on the main lake, and look for those points going back into the coves. Look at your water temperature. When the main lake gets to 50 degrees, they're going to be in the back ends of every creek and every pocket looking for a place to set up and make a nest to spawn. As soon as they come off the beds, they're going to come back out. When you begin looking at those fish moving out, they're transferring back to that main lake area. Fall rolls around, they fall back in. Winter comes around, they go back out. So if you play percentages and you throw baits that are most effective in those types of times, you're going to be more successful. Okay, if they're out deep, you got to fish something that's going to get down to them. Okay, we talked about a shallow crankbait, had a little shallow lip. The gentleman over here received one. If it's 80-degree water, they're not going to be on the surface. They're going to be down deep. They're going to be on the main lake. So if you use a crankbait, you want one that has the long lip, something that gets down. If you use the rattler type bait, you're going to let it sink, and by pumping action, you'll be able to bounce it up off the bottom and let it fall back. You're getting it into the areas where fish are most likely to be.